boys and girls, welcome to my channel. I'm ForClassic and welcome to BenchART. So for today what I do have needed is Chronos Before the Ashes, a game developed by Gunfire Games, and it is using Unreal Engine 4. So in case you don't know Gunfire Games, these guys are the developers, or were the developers, of Darksiders 2 Definitive Edition, Darksiders 3, and also the most recent title, which is Remnant from the Ashes. And now we have these Chronos Before the Ashes. So it looks like a coincidence, right? I will explain it a little bit more forward into the video. But today we are here to talk a little bit about the performance that you can expect on a GT 740M or a GT 825M or a GT 920M. So this is my recommended graphic settings. So I'm using native resolution, which in my case it is 1366 per 768, and I'm using median settings with median resolution scaling quality, which I will also explain a little bit more forward. So looking to the requirements, we are below in CPU, since I have a i5 4200 and this asks for a 4690K, which is a much more stronger CPU. We are above in RAM. I have 8 gigs of RAM. These guys ask for 4, and they also ask for a GTX 660, which is immensely much more powerful than my GT 740M. So looking to the results, if you go with median settings, you can expect the game to drop often from 30 frames per second. In my case, 19% of the time it was dropping from 30 frames per second. Although if you go with 720p low settings, the average is 47 frames per second and there is no drop under 30s. Alright, but the low settings looks absolutely bad and it doesn't feel right by any means. Alright, that's the point. Shadows on low or off, it just looks absolutely off. I mean, it looks broken. It looks like the game it isn't properly working well and there is tons of popping. So it's just, it doesn't work. Alright, the low settings, it just doesn't work. It looks like the worst thing you can try in the game when you reduce shadow distance to minimum. It just doesn't look right. So my recommendation it is to stick up with median settings and mess around with resolution quality, which in my case I decided to use the median or the normal. In this game, your resolution quality set to normal, it drops the resolution scaling to 80%. In high, it drops to 90. Alright, I decided to go with the median because 80% of native resolution, it isn't something really big. It should be around 614p. So it's 600p, alright. And since the Unreal Engine 4 it does work really well with their upscaling engine, I think the results aren't as bad as I was expecting. So 600p by internal resolution, median settings, and that's it. By using these settings on this graphic card, you can expect an experience above 30 frames per second throughout at least these beginning parts that I've tried. It was fine, but I'm expecting that throughout the rest of the game you can expect an experience above 30 frames per second. So one of the issues that I had with the game, it was with the CPU. The i5 4200U handled the game quite well, but its CPU usage it is quite high, so sometimes you might feel a little bit of a stuttering going on, but nothing really special. To be honest, the game just plays very well, and in case you are interested in that, performance won't be getting in the way. Alright, that's the point. So now that I've talked about the performance and the settings, let's now talk a little bit more about the game. Chronos Before the Ashes, it's a Souls-like game, and it's still some elements from Dark Souls. It is a little bit more clunky though, so this might be a little bit disappointing in that regard. People say that the game it is super clunky, but I feel that most people are exaggerating a bit. Unless forward into the game it gets worse. I don't really know. One of the top features of the game, and this is the selling point of this game, I can't stress this enough, this is the major selling point of this game. It is the character's age. I mean, you start your character with 18 years old, and every time you die inside the game, your character gets older by 1 year. So you start the game with 18 years old, You just died, and then when you restart, you get your character with 19 years old. So your character gets old every time you die. Good luck with that. At first, I thought this was a bad thing. But in case of this game, it actually is a good thing, because the older you get, the more access to skills and stuff to the character you get. At first, it is easy to evolve agility and strength because you are, you know, a young boy. But the older you get, the harder it gets to evolve agility, and the game tries to force you to make you learn arcane because you are now older and wiser, and obviously you don't get... it is not easier to get agility evolved. I think it's an interesting concept and something really unique, but honestly I haven't seen people very enthusiastic about this, and in my honest opinion I think it could be implemented in a much better way though. The game also features some interesting puzzles inside the game, but according to some users, after mid-game they just drag and start to become something like boring fetch quests. Although at start they are pretty good, and it's a good fresh air to the genre. As for the maps, they aren't really inspiring at all, and I'm not really talking about the graphics. This game, it isn't pushing the graphics that much. They don't make usage of high-end features from Unreal Engine 4, and I'm absolutely fine with that 100%. The thing is, the art style of the maps, they are not really memorable. They are just a bunch of corridors with some details, and well, that's pretty much about it. The game story, if you don't like the gameplay, might be what really keeps you inside the game, but above all, to not spoil you, this is a prequel from the Remnant game. And, well, the objective, it is really just to kill a dragon. Essentially, the dragon, it is summoning monsters, and that's about it. You go and kill the dragon, and that's it. That's mainly the story. Of course, there will be a ton of lore and details inside the game, but I can't really tell you about it. Still, I do enjoy the game. It's not the best Souls game out there, for sure, but at least it is not a straight copy. It has some nice puzzles, the age mechanic, it's very lightweight and optimized, so if you have an old hardware you can really run it, as you saw on my videos. And it's not totally expensive. You can get it by the time of this video for $29.99, so it's not cheap and not expensive. I think it's a good price. Metacritic, it is also around 72, so it's rather acceptable. But Steam community have a very mixed feeling about the game, because, you know, there is a thing about this game. Chronos Before the Ashes, it is not exactly a new game. It is actually a port from the original Chronos, which was released like 3 or 4 years ago. And this game was specifically made for VR. So the fact that you are buying a game that it is non-VR and it's a port from a VR game with 40 years old, I mean, and they are charging you $29.99 for a game with 40 years old, which was not specifically done for this. I mean, it's a little bit complicated to recommend. And I think that for some part, some people are complaining about that. But the other part, it is really the uninspiring combat, the uninspired enemies, and the maps overall. And the fact that some people complain a little bit about the combat gameplay, they don't like it. For me, it was fine though, but I do understand that it is not at the same level as a Dark Souls, for example. So if you played Remnant recently, this will feel like a very big step back for you in that regard, alright? So I think that's all that I want to talk about Chronos Before the Ashes. Hope you keep enjoying the rest of the gameplay, and I do hope to see you soon. Goodbye.
I would use it to forge a weapon. A weapon I would give to you freely.